Oh, we're just
We're
waiting.
here.
We're on live now. Okay. Thank you. We're ready. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the regular open meeting of the city's town council, May the 25th, 2021, 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I will call the meeting to order and need a resolution, please, that in accordance with Ministerial Order M192, the town of the city's regular open council meeting continues to be closed to the public due to the inability to meet physical distancing recommendations made under the Public Health Act in council chambers located at 8707 Main Street. And that to ensure openness, transparency, accessibility, and accountability, the town of Vesuvius regular open council meetings will continue to be recorded, streamed, and published on the town's website, and that the regular open meetings be streamed on Eastlink Community Channel. A motion, please. Councillor Bennett, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you. Are there any late items, Mrs. Nelson? No. Okay, thank you. So I need a motion, please, that the regular open agenda of May the 25th be approved. Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you. And the adoption of some minutes. We have special open minutes of May the 11th, regular open minutes of May the 11th, and public hearing minutes of May the 18th. Could I have a motion that those 3 minutes be adopted, please? Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Harvey, all in favor. Thank you. And we'll go down to water matters. And this would be Water Districts 8 and 9 financial accounts to report on expenditures from accounts payable for water councillors and council to receive for information purposes. And the cash requirements to May 25th, 2021 are in the amount of $37,216.68. Could I have a motion? Thank you. Councillor Morera, Councillor Appleby, all in favor. Thank you. The next is the fire hall apparatus. Am I correct? I've got too many pieces of paper to look at here. Who's going to talk about that one?
Your worship, I can if you wish.
Please do.
This is a continuation of some repairs at the main fire hall that were commenced last year. Information report for council as per the delegation of authority bylaw. When we looked for a contractor to do the work, we found very few people who were prepared or qualified to do this work. So we've given the go ahead to the contractor who commenced the work last year to finish it. This year it's within budget. As it's the only quote, I guess it's the lowest bid for the work as well, your worship. So it'd be nice to get that work completed and protect the integrity of the foundation and the geothermal.
Do we have any guarantee that this is the last time we'll have to deal with this, or?
It's believed that the curing process when the cement slab and apron were first poured wasn't completed in the best possible manner, resulting in this cracking, fairly extensive cracking throughout. I think it was probably done when the weather was extremely hot. Somebody wasn't wet burlap, keeping an eye on it long enough. We don't expect to have to repeat this work.
I hope not. And
Yeah,
I
it's terribly
understand.
expensive all in all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And certainly, I mean, foundations do crack a little bit, but the problem with this is that it has in-floor heating, right? And that makes
Yeah,
it
we're worried
difficult.
about salts and oils and greases
Yes.
coming off of equipment put in on that is big.
So this report is for information only as this can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We don't. Go ahead, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Does the original contractor not have any liability in this situation at all?
I think probably by the time it was identified as a problem, it was well past any normal warranty period. And it might have been some of the general contractor supervision or other measures done that resulted in. We don't know for sure, right? It's hard to say.
Because there's a large dollar value to it.
Yeah.
is there any appetite to maybe investigate if they have liability? And I mean, we're looking at a fairly big dollar value, right?
Yeah, it's not expected that there any way to expect to recover from either the contractor who did the work or the general who oversaw the construction this time.
About, sorry,
No, go ahead, if you have something else.
what about consideration in future jobs that we have around town? Would we not question the competence?
Without knowing the true cause, it's difficult, I guess, to suggest that one thing caused it, not another. You know, it's the kind of thing you keep in the back of your mind when you're receiving bids on work. Who provided the service. I don't even know who did that slab and the foundation work over there.
Yeah, we did have a contractor. I'm wondering if this contractor that's doing the work has any kind of a guarantee. Is there something, like if something happened in 2 months, do we come back and ask him? Is that going to be your question, Jim?
Oh, it wasn't actually.
Yeah,
Comment.
I would imagine that they'd be prepared to offer whatever the common construction warranty period is. Is it 2 years?
One.
One now?
Yeah.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Nowadays.
Yeah, I think just
Go
a
ahead.
little comment, I think when we identified the cracks a couple years back, it had been over a year, so we can go back to the contractor. If my memory is correct, that's what happened. We didn't identify the cracks till after a year. And then it was too late to go back after the
Oh,
contractor.
you mean when it was originally
Yes,
constructed?
yes.
Yeah, somebody did uncover this concern. Well, one year is pretty short warranty period.
It is. Go ahead.
There's also the fact that it could have been caused by trucks driving over too soon. There's lots of other reasons. It's pretty hard to just say the guy poured it. It could be from other factors, less using it too soon. Or, so.
I guess that's the problem again. But okay. We'll get that one if nobody else has any concerns. Okay, next we have the Crown Land License Water Main Crossing, Suez Lake. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just looking for council resolution to assist in our application for Crown Land lease for the water main installation under the Suez Lake, the Narrows. We applied for this grant and tenure, I believe, 2 years ago. Unfortunately, some of the key wording was left out of the council resolution. So I'm just looking to revise that resolution and send it back off to the ministry for to get this Crown Land tenure moving again, so we can put this water main there.
Can I ask where the beginning and the end of this is? I think you said gyro, but.
Yeah, so it's the far east, southeast end of gyro. So right at the point next to the bridge. We're gonna
Okay.
go under the lake there and come up at basically Starlight Marina.
Okay,
So the directional
The other
drill
side.
under the lake.
so it's not a long distance.
It's not a
then?
long distance, it's an expensive distance.
Yes. And can I also ask you recall that at one point we were considering putting stairs in?
That is still on the capital agenda and has been included in this project scope.
But my assumption is that you would put this waterway in first to make sure we've got.
No, the walkway is on our property, so there's no need to get a Crown tenure to put the walkway in.
Okay,
I do have to get a section 11, so through the Water Sustainability Act, in order to put that walkway in play.
the walkway or just the stairs to go down?
It's gonna be a ramp.
There's a ramp.
So it's a ramp.
Your Worship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So that presumably will be done later and when
It'll be
might
done
this
once
be done?
this directional drill is complete. That'll be part of the contractor's obligations to then put the ramp down to the water lines.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Councilor Rhodes.
What was that staff recommended option?
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councilor King? Any questions? Everybody's okay? All in favor? Did you have a question? Mr. Appleby? No.
Oh,
Okay, sorry. Thought your hand went up. Okay, thank you. And next we have a, where are we? Miss McKay, are you on there? Yes, you are.
Yes, I am.
Boundary expansion request.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. Little background here, and this is about 2021 boundary expansion request from LaRose Winery and area, and also a little discussion about the previous boundary expansion petition to the town, which the town received in 2017. So in January of this year, the Director of Operational Services, my colleague, Mr. Brownstein, received a request for municipal services, that's specifically water, from LaRose Winery Limited, which they're located at 3719 62nd Avenue. And I'm sure you've seen their sign on the highway, Highway 3. So the director responded to this request by stating that in order to receive this service, LaRose would need to be included within the town boundaries, as well as pay for any related costs to the extension of the town's water system. Following which, the town received a request from LaRose to have their property included within the town boundaries. So in addition to this request, towns also received verbal requests from the owners of adjacent properties on the north side of the property, and as well to be included within the town boundaries. So staff reached out to 2 other neighboring property owners and requested a written response or email to ensure they were in support of having their properties included within the town boundaries. And just to clarify, that's one family that owns 2 properties, and then the 3rd property is owned by another individual. So the map included in attachment B to my report identifies the properties which were contacted to determine their support to be included within the boundary extension proposal. And I can now confirm unanimous support from all property owners who each expressed interest in obtaining municipal services. So a little bit of overview or background here. In 2017, you'll recall that the town received a petition from property owners in the East Bench area of Vesuvius, expressing their request to be included within the town boundaries. The petitioners noted that they are hopeful that in joining the town, there would be potential to receive utility services, specifically sewer and possibly water. They also were wanting services of snow plowing and street cleaning. So after review of the proposal, it was determined by staff at that time that the town was not in a position to move forward with the request, as it would require extensive studies such as servicing feasibility studies and capacity studies for the town's utilities. So now the next steps, let's just separate the two, the boundary extension for LaRose first. So should council move forward with the proposal for the boundary extension for the LaRose Winery, staff would then proceed with the required process outlined in municipal boundary extension guide. So in general, that would require the following. So first, we would put together an information package, sort of with everything, the maps, et cetera, tax information, et cetera. And then we would send that to all the property owners requesting to come into the extension for the LaRose boundary extension proposal. We'd also send it to the regional district to determine their comments, improvement districts, agricultural land commission, and First Nations whose territory is included within the municipal boundary extension area. Once we receive all that information in, then we would submit the entire package to the ministry, which includes your council resolution from today if you proceed, a rationale for the proposal, including the land use implications, associated maps, lists of parcels in the extension area, including legal descriptions, parcel maps and parcels indicating which property owners are in favor or opposed, the name of the regional district and affected electoral area, in this case, Area A, copies of all communication, the opinions of any owners or other persons affected, and the results of the referrals to the regional district, improvement districts, agricultural land commission, etc., and also results of the referral to the First Nations, and then any other related implementation information that might be relevant to the ministry. The ministry then acknowledges receipt of the municipal boundary extension proposal, reviews the submission prepared and an administrative report, and provides feedback. So if further work is required, they then identify that to us. And then once the ministry confirms a complete municipal boundary extension proposal, It then is referred to the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure for review. And then the ministry discusses directly with MOT. And then we move on to electoral area process, where under the Local Government Act, Section 20 requires municipal electoral approval for proposed boundary. And this can be done through the alternative approval process. And then, of course, there's more information on that available. So then there's another proposal, which was the one we received in 2017, pre-Gina. That is the East Bench in the Greater Suez area. So given the proximity of the proposed boundary extension to location of the properties in the area previously requested to join the town, it really would be prudent of us at this time to consider the expansion area as well. Now, staff are aware that an expansion of this size would require servicing studies along with cost benefit analysis for the area and the Greater Suez area in general. And staff would therefore like to bring forward at a later date additional information to council to review on a possible process to consider greater boundary expansion for a Suez as part of council's direction to staff. You'll recall at the April 13th, 2021 meeting, whereby council passed this following resolution that staff follow up on the petition received from residents on the east side and send a letter to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs requesting a restructured study grant that would look at implications of incorporating properties on the east side of Suez Lake into the town boundaries. So at this time, the implications are as follows. For the community, of course, the community does benefit from additional assessment that's added to the tax base. Sorry, I'm just going to turn off my buzzer there. Organizationally, of course, staff would follow the process outlined in the provincial boundary extension guide. There are no impacts to the budget to carry out the boundary expansion proposal process at this time. But of course, there may be costs to the municipality for extension of services, etc. But to actually proceed with just this proposal process at this time, there's no additional costs, staff time, of course, and then significant dates, of course, following a resolution in council, staff would then prepare the detailed information package that we just went over for referral to the agencies outlined. And sustainability, community environmental sustainability is enhanced when municipal water, sewer, and water services are available. So now the options before council today are option number one, that the town of Suez proceed with the proposed boundary expansion for the properties outlined in the table on this page of my report, and that the town of Suez staff be authorized to develop, sign, and submit the proposed provincial proposal to the provincial government. Number two, council requests additional information before moving forward. And item three, or option three, that no further action be taken. And staff are recommending option one at this time. Thank you, Mayor McCordoff.
Thank you, Ms. McKay. Councillor Rhodes, yeah, I have a couple of questions about this too. Go ahead, you first.
I can't hear you, by the way.
Sorry, Councillor Rhodes is going to speak first. He has a question, and then Councillor King.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. I'm curious about the East Bench group. Does it require 100% buy-in by all of the residents there?
Thank you.
At a future time that.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. So that was 2017 when we received the request. I'm not sure if it was 100% at that time, but it would be difficult to say if there was 100% now, because that was, of course, 4 years ago that we received the request from East Bench.
I'm curious about the rules. Does it require total consensus by all of the residents?
So at this time, we're not proposing that we would proceed with that process. We're just proposing that we proceed with the LaRose boundary extension process. And that we bring forward to council at a future council meeting, additional information on the East Bench and or Greater Suez area.
Your worship,
Yeah,
the boundary extension criteria doesn't specify a need for resident consent to a boundary extension proposal. The ministry likes to see that the majority of residents in an expansion area proposal are supportive of it, but they aren't asked to vote on it, in fact. It's the electors within the incorporated community undertaking a boundary extension that have the opportunity to petition against a boundary extension. And if so, under alternative approval, trigger the need for a referendum. I guess it's the province recognizing that sometimes municipal needs that drive boundary extensions may exceed local unincorporated areas interests, I guess. So they like to see that support, but it's not necessary.
Thank you, CO Chabot.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Councillor
thank you,
King.
Madam Mayor. Ms. McKay, I guess I was wondering about the service and studies with this particular winery, because they're definitely gonna need water if they come into town. So I guess I'm kind of a cart and a horse situation. Do we even know if we have capacity to give them water?
Thank you, Councillor King. Is Director Brownstein in the audience still?
She is.
Yes, he is.
Mr. Brownstein, perhaps you'd like to take this one.
Thank you, Mr. Kay. That would be part of the requirements of them coming in the boundary. Would be that we have to assess our water system to see if there is capacity.
But that, okay, but what it says here, we're asking to bring it in, we're not asking for any studies or anything, and that's not in the application, that anything has to be done, sending this paper forward. That's what I'm kind of asking the question.
I realize there's a little bit of cart before the horse. If there's no appetite from council to bring them even in, I wasn't going to push a $30,000 study on the applicant to say you need to verify that our water system is acceptable to bring you in. So if this process is complete and there is appetite from council to move forward with them bringing them into town boundaries, then that discussion with the applicant will happen and say, okay, now we need to have that study. They have been notified that the study may result in them not being able to connect to our water system. Or the cost may be so high that they cannot connect to our water system. They have been advised that. Preliminarily, we don't see a huge issue with the water system. Fire protection will be greater discussion.
Okay, how that, if I understand you correctly, it would be the applicant's expense to do the study? Thank you.
Okay, can I ask, the two pieces of property, like the Hurl property, which is down on Lake Shore, that were asked to bring, they asked years ago to come in. I have a feeling they're either close or they're in, and I'm not sure whether they are included in the town now, Ms. McKay. And I'm thinking that, don't we have to deal with things sort of as we can't leapfrog? Has this been done? These two pieces of property on Lake Shore?
The three.
Because there's three, sorry.
So I can speak to that, Mayor McCartoff.
Thank you.
I just spoke with a representative at the province today, at Municipal Affairs and Housing, on this, and they're in the process of just waiting. After we do all our referrals, I should explain, the province actually is required under reconciliation to refer again to First Nations. So they're now waiting back until June 7th for the comments back from the impacted First Nations, or First Nations that have traditional territory in the area. And then once they receive or don't receive anything back, then they would proceed forward on the process. And then also my colleague, Mrs. Hilson, might want to speak to that because she'll be looking at the alternative approval process. So we'll be working together on that project. But right now, they have sent us a memorandum of understanding where they're at. There are a number of people that on the 89th boundary extension to the north, you'll recall there was two different areas. So there are two separate proposals that would go to the ministry at the same time. So right now they're kind of in a holding pattern until after the alternative approval process.
So that could take a while, and my concern is that you've just named in option one, the 4 properties that have just asked. And my assumption is LaRose has purchased Fernandez. Is that right?
Correct,
That's why they're there, yeah.
correct.
Okay. So my thinking is that should we not be dealing with the ones that were asked
Okay.
first, were in the process? Then it seems to me the east side boundary expansion was next. And then these guys, and I'm just a little concerned that we could have problems if we move forward with this without dealing with the other two that came before. Am I correct in that or not?
Well, thank you, Mayor McCartoff. I did speak with the province representative at the province about this, and they did not see any problem with proceeding with another small boundary extension at this time. That was completely up to the town to decide if they wanted to move forward with it. Because the process for the last ones took so long, predominantly due to, as they explained at the province, changes in staff at the province and then COVID. They do anticipate this one to move a little smoother and a little swifter through the process, but a lot of it has to do with the referral process. First, the town refers it, then we send it to the province and the province refers it out. So it could be quite a lengthy process for these 4 properties. If council wants to proceed, that's of course their decision.
And the 3 properties down on Lake Shore, do they not back onto the properties that you've got in the map today?
Yes, they do.
So these 4 new properties are not attached to the town of Vesuvius. They're not contiguous right now, are they?
Well, the properties on the north side, 4280 Highway 3 is contiguous to town boundaries. It is up at Inkanique Corner. And then of course, 4275 is in sort of the intersection there of 62nd and Highway 3. 4305 is it connects just at that one corner, right? So
That was obviously where the fruit stand was.
that's
I would
correct.
say. And so the other property was the big packing plant that Fernandez had. Am I correct? the
That's
one
correct. And that's,
Okay. It's a bit confusing looking at the map because I couldn't figure out which one was which. I'm assuming that if these 4 people here are interested in moving ahead, this could take another 5 years based on what we're dealing with the other properties on Lakeshore. I mean, that was well before these bench people asked to come in. So just
for clarity, Mayor McCartoff, on timelines, it was September 2 years ago, this September, so it's not been 2 years yet since those processes started.
I thought they were well before the east side people. However,
No, it's-
I think it was Mr. Romanko who looked at that and said, this kind of makes sense to add it. So I think it's been in the works for a while, but you're quite right. The actual paperwork could
That's
be
right, yeah.
in my memory. Go ahead.
Just one more question. I guess with the 3 properties on Lakeshore Drive, is that kind of a separate application than these, that these moves forward, or because they kind of touch each other, they lump them in as one?
They can't, thank you, Councillor King. They can't lump them in because it needs to go through that process that I just explained.
And the other one's
that-
halfway through, so to speak.
That it's better than halfway through, I'd say
Okay, that's
3 quarters.
Okay, that clears it up. Thank you.
Again,
Okay.
it's council's decision if they want to move forward with this proposal now or wait for the greater area. La Rose Wineries has indicated that they require these services for production by next year.
So
Lakeshore
do
trucks
they
are waiting for
understand
years.
that may not be the case? I mean, there's a lot
Yes,
to do first. Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so that's waiting.
Yes, right. Yeah, you're quite right. Go ahead, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor McCartney. Is it, who would they be paying the tax to if it become part of the town? Would that mean then the tax from the winery would become to the town instead of the regional district?
That's correct.
Okay, Council? Councillor King,
Yeah, I'll move option 1.
second that. Any other concerns that go along with this? Anybody else want to? All right, all in favor? Okay, that passed. Go ahead. Thank you, Ms. McKay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to the next is the general net payroll and Sun Bowl Arena financial accounts. And this would be to report on expenditures from accounts payable and payroll information for accounts were received. So general Sun Bowl Arena cash requirements and net payroll accounts for May the 25th, 2021, representing balances in the following funds: $1,299,079.93 for general. Sun Bowl is $4,427.79, and net payroll accounts of $99,420.43. So the options are for us to receive those three for information, or number two, to request additional information from staff. Someone like to make a motion here, please? Councillor Rhodes? Are you on option one?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Option number one.
Are you seconding that, Councillor Bennett? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. And next is the 5-year financial plan. Are you doing that, Mr. Chabot?
Your worship, I'll try to answer any questions. This is council directed that there be a financial plan amendment brought forward to capture the 89th and 62nd Avenue intersection improvements, Legion Beach improvements, other things. Mr. Zacco has included a reconciliation and adjustment to the amounts collected for other governments as well, which is incorporated as a part of this. I think what's interesting to note, I know at the last time for at least a member or perhaps two or more of council, funding some of the Legion Beach intersection improvements from the land acquisition reserve fund was a concern. Mr. Zacco has, after re-examination of the 5-year roads budget, identified a general reserve fund to replace the use of the land acquisition reserve fund, and a slight increase to the allocation from operating budgets in year 2023. So that funds that project absent debt and without that land acquisition reserve fund utilization. Project costs for that one are spread out over 3 years, 2021, 2022, and 2023. The reconciliation to payment to other governments nets out at zero, but needs to be reflected in the financial plan to support those transfers.
Okay, and so I see that there is, once we, if we decide to undertake this process, then it would be an advertisement in the Times Chronicle, and the public would be provide comments before we do anything more with that. Okay. Council, what are your thoughts on this? Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll go option one. Council gets first readings to 5-year financial plan amendment 1371-012021.
Thank you. You're a seconder for that? No, I will second it, put it on the table then. Now, anybody like to speak to this? Go ahead, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, notwithstanding the land acquisition reserve change, I feel just as strongly as I did when we spoke to this item 6 weeks ago or so. You know, there's water and sewer reserves for $500,000. This is not a water and sewer project other than hooking up a washroom. So I feel very strongly it's not the right project for the taxpayers of Vesuvius at this time, and this is not the right way to fund it. And I want to add, since the report was tabled or presented to us in April, I had opportunity to speak with Sergeant Beta, because the report and the presentation of it spoke about improvements in safety improvements. So I asked Sergeant Beta about traffic incidents at that intersection, and he knew of none, but he did go and check the records, and he could go back 2 years for vehicle on vehicle, that is fender benders. And he found no reports of any fender benders. And he can go back 5 years where there's a personal injury involved, whether it be a pedestrian or a vehicle occupant. And going back 5 years, he found no incidents reported. And so it's, while driving through that intersection, it seems intuitive that there might be a safety issue. The data doesn't support that. So if anybody else on council approved this project thinking a safety improvement, I would urge you to look at the data, which says that there have been no accidents there, which is not to say there won't be any in the future, but there are other intersections in town where accidents are much more prevalent. So all to say, I don't support the motion and will be voting against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Corda. A question about the $700,000 grant. Is that a project specific or could it be repurposed?
Through the shared council roads, it is project specific. It cannot be reallocated to some other project in which council feels is appropriate for the $700,000. We would have to return that $700,000 to the province and say thank you, but no thank you.
So I had a question about RMI. So it was 255,000 from this year and 505,000 from next year. And I'm just wondering where we're at. Does that make sense? And does, if we spend that money right now on that amount on this project, does that mean that there is other projects with which we've identified in the RMI budget that might not be able to be done?
Your worship, that's an allocation of 100% of the funds allocated to the program area of waterfront enhancements. And waterfront enhancements includes a very general description, high level description of some enhancements that may or may not have been possible, primarily at Gyro Beach. Included outdoor ice skating and a variety of other things. There was the 755, 760, I guess, allocated in the RMI. It also showed $1.6 million in municipal funds, which to date I don't believe has been reflected in a financial plan or budget. So whether those were going to come to fruition or not. If council supported the project today, one of the things we'd have to do is give some clarity to the province of here's what we're going to use those funds for and have them consent to that use as well.
Just RMI funds?
Just the RMI, yeah, that to be consistent with it. You know, the other comment was made about water and sewer reserves and being inappropriate for use. My understanding is that the intersection realignment and moving the road over entails moving some of the deep utilities. It's more than just connecting the washroom facility. It's moving your sewer and your water lines, putting them elsewhere than where they currently are.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'd speak in favor of this. Anytime a town of this size can have the opportunity for 700,000, I think that's a substantial amount of money. I think this whole area would be, it's more of a beautification project in my eyes. The accessibility committee would be excited with the new ramps and things that could possibly be built down there. So I fully support this.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Rose.
Thank you, Member Corda. I have a question, an additional question about the RMI. The dollar values that are in here, that's using like just about all of it, right?
That uses all of the allocation to waterfront enhancement. There will remain 550,000 left for the other projects in the RMI funding.
My memory is telling me that our RMI amounts are around the 350,000.
We got 472,000, I believe, last year, which included a performance-based lift. I think the base amount for Soyuz has become $430,000 a year, I believe.
So we haven't used as much of that funding as we normally do because of the pandemic. Is that correct?
Because there is no concrete capital plan for the support of expenditure of this nature. Those would have to be developed, and as you know, the resort municipality initiative doesn't fund studies or design work or feasibility analysis.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you,
Councillor
Madam
Bennett.
Clerk. I'm gonna speak against the motion. I just feel that it's too much money and too much money come from other areas to spend all this money on one project.
So I've been thinking about it too. I do think that whether there may not have been any accidents there, but definitely coming down 62nd and stopping, and you're facing a certain way and you literally have to pull out on the road to be able to look back to see if there are any cars coming. So I think that's a bad corner. It's also very narrow going up from 89 up 62nd there. So I do think that there could be some issues there with definitely with traffic. And we know that people speed along there, which is why we have a traffic monitor reader board on there to keep track, and we've heard that from many people. Of course, my two big concerns are that we don't need that big a washroom and change rooms. You've heard that from me before. I know you're tired of it. And the other thing is that I want pictures of people pulling in and backing into the parking places, because I think that's going to be, that's not the way people normally park. And I know that you explained it with the pictures. We're obviously, there's going to be pros and cons to either doing this or not doing it, and it's tricky, and that's why we all get paid the big money. Not okay. So does anybody have any more concerns about this? All right, well, there's 5 of us here, so I'm going to ask the question. All in favor of option 1? Against. Okay, well, that has not passed. So my assumption is that will be taken off the table and the 700,000 will be sent back. Does that require anything to be done to this financial plan then, or do
Yeah,
we-
council will return a different financial plan amendment bylaw to council that will include the transfers to the other government agencies.
And we need to abandon this bylaw. We need a motion to abandon financial plan amendment bylaw number 1371.
All right, so we need to abandon it, and is that all we do today then?
Yes.
All right, so we need a motion, please, then, to abandon bylaw number 1371.201 2021. Good, go ahead.
If this had option 1 doing it this way, and option 2 said we could send it back and have them relook at maybe a lesser version of this and still use the 700,000. Is that even an option? Or is this just saying it's everything and nothing and money's got to go back, or is there a way to ask to bring this back and have that?
The province wanted to know what the town could do with its funding support was $700,000. We initially applied for $1 million. And we said, well, we can do items, and it was 1 through 8 on a list of about 13 items. But if you only go do the first phases, it was $2 million of it?
It was 2.3.
2.3, then you're gonna be left with a half-finished project. So really, this wasn't designed or anticipated to be a variety of options. They wanted to see how we could support the tourism economy, how we could provide COVID-safe recreational amenity, access to natural environment and things. And so that's what we did. They're probably not geared up for or anticipating or wanting revised applications from the 19 communities that got funded.
Go ahead, Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, I'll move option 5 to not change the financial plan bylaw 1371.
And not change it, that would mean that we would have to leave it as it is, and I think we need to abandon this bylaw, the way it's set out.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
That's what Mrs. Wilson has
Yes,
just
you
said.
need a motion.
Altogether.
It just closes the door on it.
Yeah,
Puts it to bed.
it's done.
All right, is there somebody who would like to make the motion to abandon the bylaw?
So moved.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey, seconder, Councillor Rhodes. All in favor? Against? Okay, thank you very much. So my assumption is that Mr. Zackel will come back with a further financial plan and with adjusting what we decided today.
The collections from other governments, yeah, they
Okay.
need to get incorporated in the financial plan, so. Probably have that for the next meeting.
Okay, a timeline on this financial plan, like it has to be.
No, it doesn't impact,
Sure. The bigger plan?
tax rates or
Okay.
anything. You can amend your financial plan at any time after adoption.
Yes,
You in the first instance need to adopt one before the 15th of
May
May.
15th, yeah. But right in the beginning, he's got the financial plan may be amended today. All right, so we will go back to the report from the CAO.
Thank
Is
you.
that
Your
where we
Worship.
are? Yeah,
Yeah, moving right along. I've got a written report that I'll provide to Ms. Wilson that she'll include with the minutes. Not a lot of items jump out. People have been busy with busy capital projects and preparations for spring. Myself and Mr. Bronstein had a meeting with representatives of the Soyuz Indian Band. Earlier it referenced requests for services in the eastern part of the community. So we went and met with them in their offices last week. We're working on refining a proposal, and that all will come forward to council, probably a closed meeting in the first instance for a review and a discussion. We're waiting on a little bit more clarification as to intended future plans as far as they can go. The South Okanagan Aquatic Center Advisory Committee had its first meeting, and a number of council members are on that committee. Next meeting is Wednesday, June the 2nd. They intend to meet first Wednesday of each month, targeting a completion for that feasibility study the end of October this year. Immunization clinics continue to be provided at the Sonora Community Center. People can find information to register to get a vaccine either on our website or at the BC Center for Disease Control website.
provincial government.
All right, good. Community services, another meeting scheduled with the Desert Park Exhibition Society to discuss a renewal or extension of their license to occupy the Desert Park facility later this week. Corporate services, deputy corporate officer has been very busy, mostly with HR matters and council agendas and the like. Been taking some training. Most recently managing people. Municipal Administration Training Institute course, which ran for 6 weeks. Property tax notices are being printed as we speak. They'll go out in the mail. I think a small load of them went out at the end of last week, and the rest probably go out this week. People can expect to see those in their mailboxes soon. Financial services year-end reporting to the province for the statements of financial information have been completed and will be presented to council on an agenda for receipt before the end of June. The fire department has dealt with 2 fires at the same house on 92nd Avenue in the last couple of weeks. They've had a lot of call to structure fires for a small town this year so far, so hopefully we're getting near the end of that. Both of the deputy chiefs participated in the Fire Training Officers Association annual conference virtually, and we all know how much fun those are. Planning and Development Services, our first draft of the OCP is posted on the city's website. People are encouraged to go there and review it. Short survey will be developed. I don't believe it's posted yet. And when it is, we'd ask people to complete it, give us their thoughts. Continued strong development inquiries. Business license renewals, almost all outstanding have been renewed by now. Bylaw services is dealing with the usual parking of boats and motorhomes as they come out of storage. They show up on our residential streets. I understand there's some abandoned and uninsured vehicles removed from 115th Street. Did you see that? You need to take a look for it when you go home. Sure. Building permit value is still on pace to be a very high year, potentially the highest year. Operational services has been busy with installing banners, and those are 75th anniversary banners, new Soyuz Lake water quality banners. The swimming boys are out. It's looking like summer in the Soyuz. Hanging baskets were placed. Probably most interestingly is the temporary closure of 85th for a pedestrian plaza between the Bank of Montreal on the north side of Main to the alley. Looking for feedback and comments on that, and your QR code questionnaire is not yet available either. Is it advertised there? We'll do a questionnaire on that as well. People will be able to scan it with their smartphone, complete it, and tell us what they think of it. Most of the feedback we've received so far has been pretty positive, so hoping that that's a useful addition to our community. And that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much.
Mayor McCordov?
Yes. Yes,
Sorry, I'm sorry, Mayor McCordov. Just that the online survey is live for the OCP.
Oh, all right.
It is up and running, and we're just going to be setting up over the next couple of days as Zoom meetings for those people that want to participate in conversations about various sections of the OCP. So that will be coming to an e-news soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. McKay. Okay, could we go back and I need a motion, please, to receive the CAO report? Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you very much. And councillors, Councillor Harvey, you're first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, so last week I had two meetings. One was Traffic Safety Committee. Two items. Sergeant Beta presented that accident data from 89th and 62nd that I spoke of earlier, and dealt with some complaints. The other significant item was speed reader signs are now installed at 89th and Kingfisher, as well as on Lakeshore at around 44th. The other meeting I was the May Library Board, and it was fairly routine. There's nothing of significance to report. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rhodes.
I'll have to pass.
Okay, thank you. Councillor King.
Yeah, I'll have to pass. I just have a meeting at 4 o'clock this afternoon, community services, if we get out here in time.
Okay, well, we'll try. And Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one education, school district 53, and they improved the student fees for next year, going up a little bit. And they're getting teachers to provide more data to the ministry and middle grade progression to get more information on how kids in the province are graduating. And that's it.
Thank you. So a couple of things that I was on. I was on a Whistler Institute Tourism Whistler webinar, and it was quite interesting to talk about how tourism was going to move forward. And the idea was to make tourism a little more resilient, and to think about ways that you could minimize your footprint, do a slow travel, and of course this was Whistler mostly, but it happens to other resort municipalities as well. That you slow travel, you do it more than just sort of run up somewhere for the weekend and party for a day or two and then back. So they're suggesting that if you could do midweek visits, which might be a little bit longer and would help out businesses. But what the main thing that I wrote down was tourism must lead to a better future. And I thought, you know, that kind of makes sense. That's the type of thing that we need to think of. We can't just say, well, we want everything to go back to normal and have, we need to think about how we can use what we've learned over the past year and how can we make tourism safer and better and more interesting and expand it. And this week, May 23rd to May 30th is Travel Week in Canada. That was put out by, I think it was Thompson Okanagan Tourist Association where I read that. So what they're saying is the 2021 tourism pledge to travel in Canada when the time is right and when restrictions have been lifted. And I know that we've had Minister or Premier Horgan and also Dr. Henry on today. And I haven't gone through it all totally, but certainly some of the restrictions are being started to be lifted. And it looks like some of them are starting right now, and they're quite careful about doing things slowly and carefully. The middle of June is step 2 and step 3 is on July 1st. So it's possible that some of the things that we've been putting off could be could show that, you know, the community is opening up more, but it will take a little bit of time and people need to feel comfortable with it too. So in the meantime, stay local and support local. Those are really important things. And Mr. Chabot mentioned that the tax notices will be going out today. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that you do not come in here to apply for your homeowner grant. You must do that provincially now, and there is a website and it will say, I'm sure, on your tax notice, how you do that. I did it. I know Councillor Rhodes said that he'd already done it, and I thought, well, I'm going to do this now. And I went online. It was very easy to fill it in. I got a number saying that I had done it, but in fact, they don't credit that to my account until they actually send out the tax notices. So I got my confirmation number that that's been done. So I suggest before, you don't have to wait for your tax notice to go ahead and apply for your homeowner grant. Good idea to do it whenever you've got time. And we were talking about vaccines. It was announced today that over 60% of people in BC have had their first dose. And that's a good thing. And I think that probably the second vaccine will be available probably within a month. So starting to get people second doses. So that's a very positive thing. And last week I was down at the gazebo on Pioneer Walkway, and they were dedicating it. And it was actually dedicated to Home Hardware, the Solijuk family. All of the work that was done there, replacing the floor, replacing the posts, the roof was done by volunteers, many volunteers, several of them that were there. And it was paid for by Home Hardware. There was no money that came from the town or anyone else. That was an amazing thing. Home Hardware, as we know, has been very, very involved in doing a lot of things for the town of Vesuvius. And it was started, the whole Pioneer Walkway was started in 1992. And there were 5 women who did this. Carol Bowen and Frances Solijuk were 2 of them. And they had this vision, and they got a lot of the rock and fill from where Mr. Brownstein's house is now, up at the golf course there, and it was brought down, put on there. And I would think, as I recall, where the highway was, there was some rocks that went down and then there was the water. So it's been extended, I would think, the Pioneer Walkway 10 to 12 feet out all the way along there. Plus all the benches, the plantings, the clock by Mr. Saunders, no relation to our communications director. And it's a beautiful place for people to walk, ride on their bikes, and sit down and enjoy the view. And you know what? We really need to appreciate that these kinds of things are done by volunteers in this town. And we are so lucky that we have people who continue to do this and continue to make this a better place. And we certainly know that projects are very expensive, so to have volunteers doing it and have people donate money is just an absolute bonus. So that was all that I had for today. So I will now ask for a motion, please, to move to the in-camera section. And we need a motion that the public be excluded from the in-camera meeting pursuant to the following sections of the community charter. Section 91G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality, the received advice that is subject to a solicitor, client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of the municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. And number 2, section 91A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality, or another position appointed by the municipality. So could I have a motion, please, to move in camera? Thank you, Councillor Rhodes, Councillor